Hi there, Phil again. This tip is about companion planting in vegetable gardens. I've already produced a tip regarding companion planting generally with gardens. However, vegetable gardens are a bit of a special situation. The reason for that is because in general gardening areas I grow wildflowers or perennial plants. I also encourage weeds to farrow my lawns, which encourage beneficial insects. However, they're not really viable options in a vegetable garden. Partly, for example, it's because if you grow perennial plants that will encourage beneficial insects in a vegetable garden, those plants will compete strongly with the vegetables for nutrients and water. So it's not really appropriate. So we have to approach companion planting in vegetable gardens in a slightly different way. First of all, one way that you can discourage pests is by actually mixing all your vegetables together. Insects aren't all that bright. They can smell their host plants, that is those that they're going to attack, from some distance, but their eyesight isn't really very good. So once they've located where the plants are, they would just simply go and land on what seems to be a likely sort of a plant. And if it's a plant that isn't actually the right plant because you've mixed your plants together, then it's quite likely they've landed on the wrong plant. They'll take off and they'll keep trying. After a while they'll get sick of it and they'll just go somewhere else. So they do find it quite hard to locate their appropriate plant. Now that system doesn't really work for me. All of my garden beds are 3.5 up to 5 meters long. It's much more efficient for me to grow plants in rows. So therefore the mixed planting system doesn't really work for me. It's just not really practical. However, one way to approach this if you've got a smaller garden is through square foot gardening. In this situation, you divide your vegetable plot into small sections, 30 by 30 centimeters across, that is a foot by a foot, and plant each square intensively. Murray's garden here operates this way. It's a useful way of getting high productivity from a small garden and also discouraging pests. Crops are generally grown in a grid pattern in the square. For example, 1 cabbage will take up a square foot, or 4 sweet corn plants, or 16 onions or radishes. The next method is attracting beneficial insects, usually predators and parasitoids. Predators are bugs such as hoverflies or ladybirds, which will track around and actually consume a number of pest insects such as mites or aphids. Parasitoids are usually ones that lay their eggs inside a pest, and that will grow and consume the insect from inside. So it's a bit of a different process. However, the concept is pretty much the same for both sorts. The best approach here is to grow vegetables which produce prolific amounts of small flowers and allow some to go to seed. Here in my garden I've allowed some carrots and parsley to go to flower. These small flowers are a key source of food for the tiny parasitoids such as this Cotesia, whose larvae attack caterpillars, aphids and other pests of vegetables. In this other situation I have left the side shoots on broccoli flowers flower after harvesting the main crop. These are also attractive to parasitoids. If you let a few carrots, parsnips, parsley or fennel go to flower, they will fill this role. You can see the immense amount of tiny flowers on this flowering carrot. If you wish, you can then save the seed for further sowing. Other flowers in the vicinity of your vegetable garden carry out the same function. Queen Anne's lace in the same family of carrots have a crown of tiny flowers. Daisies such as zinnias appear like a larger flower, but are actually lots of flowers crowded together, so are ideal as a companion plant. This hoverfly is collecting nectar from a daisy. Calendula flowers right through the winter, providing forage for insects. I should mention that I often also let weeds, such as this Galansoga with its small daisy flowers, go to flower amongst my vegetables. They have the same benefit as other flowers. Before they overly compete with these spring onions for nutrients and water, I will pull them up and leave them on the surface as valuable organic matter under the chop and drop regime. Likewise, this nipplewort growing wild beside my vegetable garden is doing no harm and is also providing a useful source for beneficial insects. Next, scented vegetables. Some vegetables exude an aroma which pests use to locate them. Strongly scented vegetables planted in association with these plants may disguise the scent and stop the pests from finding their target. For example, These spring onions or scallions provide this benefit for the lettuces and cabbage growing close to them. Chives and leeks have a similar effect to onions. I grow basil near my tomato plants. This is supposed to reduce attack by whiteflies. Next, perimeter planting. Companion plants can be planted around the outside of the vegetable garden, not necessarily in it. Plants such as this parsley, sage and marjoram provide the advantage of both scented leaves and flowers that are popular with beneficial insects. Honeybees and bumblebees drawn to the flowers will also pollinate vegetables such as tomatoes or beans. Finally, organic matter. Vegetables are very demanding of nutrients. Copious organic matter is the most environmentally friendly way of providing these nutrients. Vegetable plants are a key source of this. When they finish producing, you can return them to the soil through composting or by the chop and drop method, as I mentioned for weeds earlier. In the case of legumes, such as peas, beans and fava beans or broad beans, the nitrogen fixed by the roots is returned to the soil and is available for the following crops. As an added bonus, the organic matter on the soil provides a refuge for predators such as this Megadromus beetle, which will attack pest insects at night. Companion planting such as these have been shown to be very effective in terms of controlling pest insects. They're not necessarily total control. I use other methods such as using pest barriers with my tomatoes where I have an insect-proof cover. I have actually produced a tip on this. I've actually produced a number of tips on specific vegetables, and I am going to start doing more of these general ones now, such as this companion planting one, and I will be producing ones in the near future. So if you haven't done so, be sure to subscribe to this channel and also like this tip so that you can be sure to see these as they come online. And of course, as always, thank you very much for watching this through to the end.